What's up, guys? You're here with Alex as always. In this lesson, it's going to be interesting. This is going to be something about the gear that I use and recommendations for you guys who want to start recording your own guitars, recording your own projects and whatnot. So I know there are a lot of YouTube videos, but we did actually have a request for this particular video and my top choices and reasons for not choosing other products. So I'm gonna break this down from like expensive to the cheapest budget, and then in part two, we're gonna get into basically setting up your guitar interface. So it is no shocker. My top recommendation for the absolute best of the best is going to be the Axe-Fx 3. It is pretty pricey. However, the newest model, the Mark II, has this cool RGB logo you can mess around with and make it whatever color you want. More so, it basically has all the amplifiers that you're going to ever want. Usually on the stream, me and Conan are directly inputted through the Axe-Fx 3. I believe you can do like 2 guitars and 1 bass. I've seen people possibly do all 4 inputs, but it is kind of chaotic. So essentially, I'm basically going through the USB, the 2.0 right there, the old school like printer style, and you'll notice that for even the newest stuff uses like this older USB technology. Now, it's not bad, but they could improve later on in the future, and companies in general could improve in making USB-C and Lightning Bolt the future. Now, these go roughly around like 22, 25 $100 after tax and shipping and everything, depending on what you want to do. As you can see, $22.99. That's the most expensive of them all. However, I would say it's going to last you the longest. They do update their firmwares pretty frequently. And the next one that we're gonna have, it's gonna be the Quad Cortex. Now, I don't really have this personally, but I do use some of the Neural DSP plugins. And before I go into more of this, basically the plugins is essentially what it sounds like. It's a plugin. So it's basically software for your guitar. Do need an interface, and this is where it gets kind of weird. So with the Axe-Fx 3, you can actually run a dry signal, which is basically just your guitar input going through. It's basically a clean sound, and then you can actually use a plugin on top of it. So it's basically like what I would say an artist would use their digital easel. I can't think of the actual technological word for a digital easel. An artboard, all right. Your digital artboard, all right, is like your interface, and it'll use like Adobe Photoshop or Illustrator, right, as the program. So the same thing is with guitar. So you have an interface like this. You plug in your guitar to the input. Once you load the program, then you get your actual amplifier sounds. So with the Cortex here, it's basically the same thing, but it also acts as an independent amplifier or amplifiers. You get most of your sounds through here. You can play it with a guitar power amp, or you can plug it directly into your computer to record and use it as an interface to plug into whichever recording software that you do have. So that's the other option that would be comparable to the Axe-Fx 3. Other than that, I would say the one right below it is going to be another Axe-Fx product. So this one here, it's pretty expensive. It's just below the Axe-Fx 3 because it's still new and it's hard to find. You'll see that scalpers are still you're going to pay a lot if you want to buy it in the aftermarket, secondhand market. So I wouldn't recommend it until they're more readily available. The third option is going to be with the Axe-Fx line, or the FM3, which is this right here. Basically, it's a scaled down version of the Axe-Fx 3. You're only able to plug in one guitar, but if it's just for you, this is going to be perfect for you. It basically has all the amplifiers and effects that the Axe-Fx 3 has, but you're going to be limited on the memory as far as like saving presets and cabinets. And for the price, it's pretty good. It's at $1,100. Shipping handling is going to be a little bit more, but it's going to act as your interface as well. So you can plug it into your computer and use it as your primary interface to record guitar, whether it be Pro Tools, Reaper, GarageBand, you name it. And this has the capability of what we call reamping your tone. So if you wanted to, let's say, change your recording sound in the future, if you're mixing and mastering with the producer, if you get that far and you get super fancy, you get the dry track, which is just your guitar input, and you can reamp it using whichever amplifier that you did like to reprint the real tone of your desires. So that's probably the best budget out of them all that I would recommend. And they are available, as you can see right here, on the Fractal Audio website. So it's pretty cool. It has a lot of inputs too to plug in through like a real power amp as well. You can also plug these physical like amp modelers into a power amp, or even an effects loop of your actual amplifier if you do have one. But now we're going to go into like dedicated. Well, actually, you know what? Let's go into old hardware, basically. So if you're on a budget for more amp modelers, you have the Axe-Fx 2, which is basically the pre-successor to the Axe-Fx 3. You can see it still uses the old school USB 2.0, and it has a lot of inputs and outputs. So if you're looking for something that works really well, but you're kind of tight on a budget, Axe-Fx 2. You can see they're just roughly around like $1,000, more or less, if it comes with like the hard case and rack mounts and everything, or even like the pedals. That would be the next step. If you want to go super budget modeling and you want to use it as an interface as well, it's going to be the 11 rack. I still have this at my house. I don't really use it as much, but it's still a pretty awesome piece of software. As you can see, still USB 2.0, and it basically can do the reamping on a budget. The amps built in sound pretty good. I've used it for a few tours and I never had a problem with it. And as you can see, these go for pretty cheap. Now, unfortunately, these work hand in hand with the older versions of Pro Tools, like 9 and Pro Tools 10. Anywhere from Pro Tools 12, it's basically obsolete. So if you have an older version of Pro Tools, this can be very beneficial to you. However, if you're using a newer version of Pro Tools with 64-bit OS, it's not going to work for you. However, you can still use this with other recording programs, and it's going to work just fine with the reamping and everything. It's just unfortunate that, you know, it's old technology, but it still works in, you know, people's favors if you're tight on the budget. So after this, we're going to go straight into just interfaces. Now, the difference between like this Focusrite Solo that you see here and the Axe-Fx is that this basically has no amplifiers or tones built in. So basically it's an extension to your computer to plug in your guitar, nothing more than that. And two, if you wanted to use it to record your microphone, just like what I'm doing right now, I actually have it plugged into another Focusrite. So this is the most budget-friendly one of all. It's the Scarlett Solo. It's going to be around like $119 roughly if you wanted it. However, I would probably go a step up to the 2i2, which is going to be this one here. The difference is that you're going to get like the universal inputs for your instrument cable and XLR cable for a microphone without having to have just like one input, essentially, you know, either or from your Solo. And two, the latency is a lot better with the 2i2 versus the Solo. I hear there are bugs of it kind of not being completely accurate to your response time. So you might feel like kind of like a little hiccup, kind of like you see sometimes in our streams if it's not completely in sync. These run around like 249, 279, depending on where you get it, but definitely is worth it because from there you can plug in your guitar and a mic, or you can do a dual mic setup if you wanted to record a real cabinet for reamping, which you are capable of doing with the Scarletts. It's just a big workaround in order to do that. Now, after that, you do need to plug these into a set of like speakers or headphones. As you notice, most of these interfaces and guitar modelers have a 1/4-inch TRS for your headphones, and then the outputs, it's usually going to be a 1/4-inch out, and usually with the Focusrites and any other kind of interface like this, you do need like a TRS cable, which is basically like the double rings on the ends of your 1/4-inch to go into a matched speaker set. So the ones that I like to use for your budget's going to be like the Yamaha HS5s right here. You do need to get 2, so a pair is going to run you around $400. After that, you see your inputs into the Yamahas are going to either be XLR or your 1/4-inch. So you can do either or. And they do have different cables from 1/4-inch to XLR if you are worried about that transition, if you only have 1/4-inch cables. That's the main setup. 2 speakers for stereo, 1 interface. And then after that, you do need to get a plugin. Like I said, they have the Neural DSP stuff. Does get kind of expensive here, see? So, which is why I do kind of recommend, something like the FM3, Axis 2, even the 11 rack if you wanted to kind of get started. But if you know you're not going to really use this for just the guitar amps alone, then maybe just get a Scarlett Solo, buy one of these, buy one of the plugins, and then just go through the headphones just to see if you do like it. Now, in the next segment, I'm going to show you guys some actual free plugins that you can use along with your interface once we set that up, and I'll show you in the next episode. So, other than that, I do hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. It was kind of long, but yeah, hopefully this helps you out. Leave any comments or hit us up if you do have any questions for me personally, and I'll be able to help you out, okay?